to you. It's always a delight to be here on this morning on ITV Thursday's edition. In particular, I'm Uyi Mofwegwe. The talking point, obviously, is the outcome of last Saturday's election, particularly the aspect of it focusing on the presidential election, of course, of which results have been declared, and President Muhammadu Buhari, the candidate of the All Progressive Congress, declared as the winner of that election. Let's begin the conversation about, if you will, post-mortem of last Saturday's election and the outcome as it relates to where we stand right now. My guest first, because I'm expecting the second one, is a legal practitioner, David Maduku. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. Thanks for having me.
A while ago, I heard somebody behind camera talking to you about the election, if you voted, and so on and so forth. Many Nigerians went out to vote last Saturday. A lot of persons have said it was a massive turnout. Some people say it was overwhelming. I mean, in light of many of the issues that had come up prior to the election, what's your take overall of all of the things you had witnessed during the election?
Well, the elections have come for the presidential slot. It's come and it's gone.
Yes.
And a lot of memories with the election. Well, prior to the election, we had the nasty experience of it being postponed by a week.
Right.
Because of seeming challenges faced by INEC, as announced by the INEC chairman. Before then, we had also, as a concerned group, raised our fears about the election, the inadequacies and the unprepared state of INEC for the election, because of so many things that, occurred prior to the proposed 6th of February election. 16th, sorry. Right. We took stock of what was on ground. For instance, the creation of about 57,000 new polling units, which we said raised very, very fundamental issues. The creation of polling units in the IDP camps, right, which we said raised fundamental issues. And most of these things were not properly reacted to by INEC, even after raising such issues. Then come to the elections proper. Well, like I said, the winner has emerged. The incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari, has been declared winner, and we have to move on from there. Well, of course, there's the aggrieved, opposition party, PDP, which has said that they have indicated interest to go to court. Now, looking at the elections itself proper, yes, there were some new, there were some surprises that were sprung from places where large votes came out for one side, lower votes came out for the other side, and all that. Then the issues of the irregularities, places where you had more voters than those that were accredited and registered. You have a specific number of persons registered and accredited for a certain place, and you had now more people voting. Ultimately. That, on the face of it, is one of the modern day miracles we see.
And that should disturb us, right?
That is very disturbing. Of course, we had the social media imbroglio of so many things, of thumb printing and all that. Few cases of people that were shut down and like that. I think going forward from there, I should have thought that INEC would, make some statements, right, on those irregularities, and make statements of, it will not be a surprise if you can say, because of logistics and some inadequacies, you are going to shift the election for 1 week. Then you should, for all reasonable cause, shift the elections when they are, for those places, not generally, for those places that are involved, where they are seeming great irregularities.
But some people were, expressed the fear that would have resulted apparently in staggered elections.
Well, if it did result in staggered elections, the essence of postponing the first one was to ensure that you had free, fair, and credible elections.
Sure.
So if at the end of the day you do not achieve free, fair, and credible elections, then there was no need in the first place. There was no need in the first place to even have postponed the first one.
So in any case, you're saying it would have been better to have it free, fair, credible, yes, even though it was staggered.
Yes, for those areas, postponing it in another sense, you already started staggering the elections.
Okay.
In the first instance.
Overall.
So for those areas that had manifest cases of, irregularities, ballot box snatching, and it was reported. And, evidence was, adduced, videos and all that. I think it ought to have been looked into.
Right.
Maybe, I know you cannot achieve 100% free, fair, and credible, but to the extent to which you can, I thought that should have been recorded and looked into, probably a date fixed for by-elections in those areas, or another election, fresh elections, in those troubled spots. But we've not heard any statement to that effect from the chairman of INEC. Then President Muhammadu Buhari has been issued his certificate of return as the winner. I think I have to say at this point, congratulations to him. But I also have to say that he has to be a statesman and a diplomat. When I speak at times like this, my mind goes to the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, a fine gentleman who openly admitted that the process that brought me in was flawed. I mean, there's no other thing you can do.
But some people have also, sorry to bump in on you, just to react to that, some persons have also argued that the late president's blessed memory should have also taken it a notch higher by resigning. That would have been an honorable thing to do at the time.
Well, you cannot have leadership in a vacuum. It would have created serious constitutional and political crisis if he did that. So he had to stay put. But you see, even the opposition appreciated him.
Okay.
There's nothing like openness and honesty in leadership. If the man was so humble and open and honest to come and say, the process that brought me in was flawed, I tell you, my brother, 80% he will have calmed down the nerves of whoever is going to be screaming against you. Because he will say that this man is honest enough to admit this thing.
Besides, he's also set in place machinery to look into all
and
of those anomalies.
The Always committee and all that set up electoral reforms. Unfortunately, most of these reforms we do sits down in dust. The report sits down in dust. I remember the confab report. I don't think anything has been implemented there. So what I'm saying is, I think my word of advice to the President and Commander-in-Chief is that he should also be honest, humble, and straightforward enough to look at this process and genuinely look at the complaints emanating from it. And if he finds cause that, yes, there are genuine concerns, genuine cases of, malpractice and ballot snatching and all that, which from what we are hearing now, there are a whole lot of. I think we should be humble, straightforward, and down to earth enough to tell Nigerians that, look, this process was flawed, but we intend to do this, and this, to look into it and to strengthen it, at least against the backdrop of 2023, so that we'll have, when we say credible, and when we say free and fair, we should be saying it in the real sense of the word, and not just saying it just because we like to say it. So I think my word of advice to him, you should look at it. Forget the fact that you have been declared president and winner of it. Look at it. Because that is the process, that is the fundamental process. That when the people believe that their will has been subjugated, it is not really a good thing. When you preside over some persons that hold ill will. So let him look at it. The opposition have indicated interest of going to court. Yes, they can go to court because court is the last arbiter. You have to determine the rightfulness or wrongfulness or otherwise. But the president himself should look at it and put structures in place where he finds that, yes, this electoral process needs thorough overhaul, needs thorough reshaping and crossing the I's and dotting the T's. I am a bit disappointed in INEC because so much huge resources, over 200 billion, and that's not small.
But for a process this rigorous, a lot of persons have said money isn't enough. Do you sincerely think at some point INEC was overwhelmed given the myriad of issues they had to grapple with?
I personally do not think INEC should have an excuse because they had 4 years. The whistles are just blown now. They should start from now to prepare for 2023. They had 4 years.
They were not done and dusted with this one.
No, this one is to a large extent a high disappointment.
Okay.
With INEC, let me tell you why. The reasons are not far-fetched. You see, when you have 4 years to prepare for something and so much resource, my brother, do you know what is over 200 billion? If they had to share that for Nigerians, don't you know how much will come to each Nigerian? How many are we? So why did we even go with the election? Why did we just share the money and say, okay, the government should continue?
That has economic ramifications too,
ultimately. Well, whatever, but I mean, one begins to even think of that option now. So when we see issues of, we still talk of card readers, by now we should have had, advanced, IT advanced card readers that won't have this same complaint we had in 2015. So it's like nothing changed. So where did all those money go to? What did you actually do? You still had the same traditional complaints that we used to have from 2015. Late arrival of materials, some sensitive materials, non-sensitive materials not available on time. People not, you are supposed to build on the process as it goes on. You learn from the mistakes of 2015, you consolidate on it, you improve on it. There's more or less no improvement. The improvement we are seeing is from the electorate. They are showing more interest. They are coming out more. Even the complementary agencies that are supposed to assist INEC.
By way of collaboration?
Yes, for voter sensitization and awareness, like National Orientation Agency. We saw little of nothing of them. There was really actually the awareness and sensitization were done by most of the candidates.
And their parties.
And their parties.
Right.
So we don't know where those, I don't know whether we should begin to push for INEC being accountable.
It's a good thing you're a lawyer. I mean, the proposition now, the proposal that was made by way of the Electoral Acts just before the election, which of course the president did not assent
the proposed amendments.
Yes, became an issue for discussion for several weeks after the president had decided not to.
Exactly.
Yeah, for reasons he also stated, assent to it. Do you think that played any role by way of implication in this election?
It played its large, significant role. The truth is, the proposed amendments, I've read them, I've gone through them, there are so many, but the two that stand out are making, creating a legal framework for the use of the card reader. Making it statutorily backed.
Yes.
And you see, if that had been done, 50% of the problem we've had in this election, we wouldn't have had it.
Would that make the card readers work better electronically?
Well, even though it may not, it will also give legal backing. You see, there's going to be an influx of election tribunal cases now. And this same issue will become a recurrent issue in this one. But if it had been backed by law, that would have been settled. So that, you streamline the issues you are bringing to court. You know that, oh, no, you don't go into card reader issue. It is legally backed. So whichever one goes in and the card reader accepts, is taken straight away. But you see, we left that hanging. It's untidy. Then the other issue of electronic transmission of results, which I think is the way the world is going. You see, the world is going forward, IT-wise. I wonder where we are going. Those proposals to the Electoral Act, to me, were things that could, make the credibility, the free and fair status and nature of the elections to be more acceptable.
I've been joined by second guest, Fred Uligwe. He's a politician and an economist. So thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Barrister Maduko and I were just talking about the election from last Saturday and the fallout as it stands today. But I just wanted to establish the narrative he was pushing before you showed up, and then you can lend your voice to the conversation afterwards. So you were saying something very crucial along the line of the card reader and all of the issues.
Yes, we're talking about the proposed amendment.
Yes, exactly.
The Electoral Act. Now we're saying that, you see, it was reported to us that was sent 4 times and sent back 4 times. Well, the presidency had their own story to it. the National Assembly had their own story to it. That, okay, take it back, dot the I's, cross the T's. The spokesman for the National Assembly said, alleged that they had done so. The presidency said that we still have issues with it, take it back. And you see, it flowed back and forth 4 times. And who suffers? It's us. It's the Nigerian public. So I remember I was here sometime and I spoke on this same issue. And I laid an example about the Ghana electorate. The Ghana equivalent of the INEC raised something like this, and it went to their National Assembly, and the president assented to it so fast. So I think to do with their what do you call it now? Community voting or so. They accented to it because it was in the overall and the general interest of the Ghanaian people.
But again, how about the disparity in circumstances? I mean, in the case of Ghana and Nigeria, we probably were not dealing with the same exact circumstances.
Yes, the circumstances may not be the same, but what I'm saying is that the interest of the people
should be paramount.
When we are saying, I've seen this proposed amendment, like I tell you, I assure you, if that had been assented to, 50% of the problems we face, practically, I'm not speaking with sentiments now, I'm not talking of any party, whether IPC or 50% of the problem we face during the election would have been shelved. We're talking about legality for the card reader. The influx of cases in court, that forms a crucial basis for it. This thing is not backed by law. We are saying, okay, back it by law now, so that we can use this thing effectively. The issue of the ones that worked or did not work is another matter, but back it by law first. The second one is electronic transmission of the results from the polling stations. That is the way the world is going. We cannot keep being analog when the world is going digital. So these things are not things that you quarrel over every small dotting of I and T. You look at the general interest of the public. If that had been put into law, those amendments, we would have seen that most of the problems that will arise from this election would have been slashed into half.
Let me talk to Fred now. A lot of persons have said, just as he's been pushing for now, that it's time we automated our voting process. Would that solve the bulk of the problems we're dealing with, especially regarding elections in Nigeria?
Absolutely. It should be a thing of shame that at this point in our development, that we are still practicing the kind of system we are practicing. And we are still, like you said, being very analog in our systems, rather than going the way the world is going. Especially with the knowledge that Nigerians in the main are familiar with technology. Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world that use cell phones on the average more than most countries.
Some of us even have up to 3 cell phones.
We have more, exactly. So this is something that we ought to have been able to take use to our advantage. We use internet banking. We do internet banking. We do ATMs and all of that. Nigerians are already used to the type of technology that will be required for having a smoother electoral system, or electoral exercise. Well, I mean, on reflection, I really want to commend the security agencies, because when you look back to the entire exercise, there were not enough security personnel to manage the crowd. Okay, that's the crowd that was present in every polling station. But that's because, yes, it's an overwhelming situation, and it's not supposed to be a situation where policemen and women will be required. You know, if we employed technology, we will not need all of that security agency. We will leave the security agencies to keep doing what they usually do, you know, combating crimes in all other areas during the day. And 2, to think that in employing the system we are employing right now, the nation loses a whole lot of money. We lose a whole lot in manpower. And that translates to if several billions of naira. Okay. And that's it for those who are accounting mining. That loss is very real. We cannot be talking about our GDP being low and being stagnant or increasing marginally without taking into consideration the reasons, including loss of manpower, like the ones you spend on traffic and all of that. So this is our opportunity. We are hoping that now that the incumbent has satisfied himself, or why the incumbents have satisfied themselves in using the analog system, that they will now have the will to look very seriously, very critically into the elections amendment bill.
Let's look at that part where you say the incumbents have satisfied themselves, in your words now,
Yes.
by taking advantage, as it were, of the so-called analog system to satisfy themselves.
Yes.
Is this really about the incumbents, or is it a systemic issue we're dealing with here? Because it's been a long time coming.
It has become a systemic issue,
Yes.
Because the incumbent is always in the advantage of the incumbent to have one low voter turnout, which was the reason for the postponement of the election. I had a bet with a friend on usually barroom parliamentary.
Obviously, you're not going to tell us how much you had wagered.
No, it was a money-free bet.
Okay.
That the election, that was 2 months ago, that the election will be postponed because it has become systemic for elections to be postponed. And I can tell you right now, as we sit here, that the election of 2023 will be postponed.
That strikes terror in the heart of those watching right now, because that's negative tradition, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So what are we trying to? We cannot continue to run around in circles and hope to move forward. We are not going to go anywhere with it. Like the barrister has said, the interest of the nation should be paramount in the minds of the leaders. You have a social contract you have a social contract with the people of Nigeria that, hey, I'm running for this position to lead you, and I want you to pay me taxes. I want to use our collective resources to accomplish progress for our collective benefit. And then when you get there, you begin to think about yourself, perpetuating yourself. You begin to think about your self-interest and the interest of your friends and your cabal. In which case, you have failed. The PDP failed in the 16 years they ran this country. The APC too has failed us because they have not lived up to their social contract with the people. One would have expected from the time the elections bill,
the Electoral Acts,
Amendment Bill was first tendered, that the executive would have critically, expeditiously, taken a critical look at that bill and collaborated with the legislative arm of government to make sure an improved system is put in place. But that was not the case. Apparently, the executive had no interest in any amendment to the system that existed, which led more opportunity for fraud and rigging. See, there are three systems. There are three areas of rigging that we need to look at as we go forward. You have to look at the pre-election rigging, then the rigging during the exercise itself, and the post-election rigging. Pre-election rigging, like the distribution of voters' cards. The point at which I got turned off from even watching the results and all of that, and I walked away from watching, was when I saw the returns from Lagos. Lagos with a population of over 20 million or about 20 million, returning just about 1 million in voters participation. It was a disappointment. you and I, and a whole lot of Nigerians, I believe, will agree that Lagos perhaps represents the most enlightened society or sub-society in all of Nigeria. And to think that Lagos has a 15% voter turnout as against 40%, 60%, 50% in places that are not as enlightened, that becomes a,
let me ask you. Let me ask you this, so it can be, if you will, an addition to what you've been saying for a while now. Do you share the thoughts, as some persons do, that there are people, politicians in particular, who benefit from all of these rots we're trying to address by continuing to talk about this whole thing and would want the status quo sustained for as long as possible?
If you have observed, and I want you to keep your ears and eyes open as we go forward, okay, it is always those in opposition or those who are retired that call for change, in the system because they know that the system does not benefit them. But those in office, public and civil, when they are in office, they do not recommend such changes. The changes they have been aware of, that is deceit. That is shameful deceit. You are there in an office. You are supposed to bring to bear your expertise, your abilities, your capacity in the improvement of the system you operate. And when that is not the case, then you are being deceitful, pure and simple. So we should see, and especially when you come with a mantra of change, say, well, I'm coming to change the system because it didn't work. Let's take the case of the president, for example. He ran for the office 3 times.
You're going to have to hold your thought for a while because it's important we take a break at this point. We're back shortly, so Fred Uyigwe can continue along that trajectory. Don't go away.
TMI, every opinion counts.
I'd love you to continue along that thought you were pushing a while ago.
So I was saying, the president, for example, who lost the election the three first times he tried.
Right.
Okay? So one would have thought that in losing the elections 3 times and in going to courts to contest the results and all of that, that he and his advisors, his kitchen cabinet, would have been able at this time to have a concise improvement strategy for the process.
Right.
I participated in 2012 in the governorship race, and I came away with the reasons why the exercise didn't seem to be fair. And going into the 2015 elections, when Jega was introducing the card reader system for the first time, my passion with APC, and I told them, look, we don't know anything about the card reader system and how it's going to operate. And I presented a proposal to the INEC chairman, the party chairman at the time, Chief John Odige Oyego. Let's have a mock exercise. If you remember, there was a mock electoral exercise during Jega a few months before the election. That was because I suggested that, so that we could familiarize ourselves with it. And also, I said, well, if the parties were to have independent collation centers of their own and could capture the election results and send such results to such independent collation centers immediately after the polling, the polls take place, then it will be more difficult for the election, the post-rigging election exercise to take place. And let INEC know that you are monitoring the exercise independently and you are going to have real-time results to be able to do this. Those were my 2 suggestions. I only say those to say this, that since the president lost 3 times, he had a very great opportunity to be able to come up with strategies to combat the rigging, during, and post. elections. Okay. The very essence of democracy is to guarantee our freedoms and our rights. Very essence. So that we should put that aside and say, this, it's what everything we design should be able to reflect, should be able to capture. And then you come into the process. You want an election.
Right.
Okay? So the election is supposed to capture the mind frame, the wishes of the people. The majority should rule. So when we scuttle the election, when we rig an election, we have overturned the very purpose on its head. Because what then happens is that the minority now begins to rule. Those who do not capture the wishes, who do not better represent the electorate. So we want to be very careful. And that is when you have problems, by the way, because you are going to have a lot of confrontation. The majority are always going to feel, we are more. From what we know, we are more. And so our superiority as a majority is being usurped. And there will always be confrontation with the government and with the agencies.
Those are serious ramifications we can't pretend not to notice. We're going to talk about them just before we wind up on the program. Now let me talk to Magical. When you look at issues before the elections, stakeholders, even traditional rulers, religious leaders, were urged to sensitize their people. We know, for example, that at that point in time, severally, just before the election, even our own His Royal Majesty here, the Oba of Benin, Ewa II, had spoken to politicians, political parties. He had even told the people, go out there, participate, vote candidates of your choice. We also understand that many traditional rulers and religious leaders across this country had done the same thing along that line. To what extent did all of these efforts rub off on the election proper?
Well, yes, I must commend the efforts of several stakeholders, inclusive of traditional rulers and religious leaders too. Noteworthy, of course, is the like you said, the advice given by our most revered Omonoba on this issue that the election should be devoid of violence,
right,
and free, fair, and credible. But I must also quickly also make my observations on the patronizing posture of some religious leaders in this regard. If we want to take our mind back to the Holy Book, the Bible, the book of Mark, that says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar, and give unto God what is God. I'm not making a general statement. There are some religious leaders, both from the Muslim community and from the Christian fold, that actually admonish persons, citizens, to do the right thing, to go out, exercise their franchise, keep away from violence and all that. But then there are others, especially from the Christian fold. I'm a Christian, so let me talk more on the Christian, who were too patronizing and who did not have the courage. You see, a religious leader, a pastor, a bishop, or by whatsoever name so-called, should be courageous enough to look at the politicians squarely in the face and tell them that, look, you should stop doing this, this, and this. You stop encouraging violence, ballot box snatching, and stop going into election malpractice. A lot did not do that. A lot for other pecuniary purposes and gains. They are not able to come out and speak truth to power. So I want this opportunity to tell them that your calling is not to patronize political leaders. In the Holy Bible, Prophet Nathan walked up to King David and said, look, you killed a man Uriah and you took his wife Bathsheba, and the Lord God is angry with you. That is where you see a classical case of the state represented by David and the church represented by Prophet Nathan. And the church spoke truth to power. And I want to call on all religious leaders to draw on that. That is your calling. You have to speak the truth to the politicians. You have to tell them, forget about whether you are being patronized or not.
Please add the example of John the Baptist.
Yes. So the examples are bound. They are bound. But the point here is this. There's a lot of influence from the religious community on citizens. If we can have religious leaders that can speak the truth,
Encourage it.
tell the citizens what to do, and stop patronizing political leaders, it will go a long way. May not go the full hop, but it will go a long way in at least, streamlining. And we need. I look at the system of government in the country, and I say, is that our problem? I will ask everyone, is the system of government a problem? And I will choose to answer you, no, sir. Because the British parliamentary system, which they have and which we abandoned in 1966, or the American presidential system, which we been mispracticing from 1979 to 1983, and from 1998, we have been mispracticing. I've looked at it thoroughly, and I said that is not the main problem. I think the main problem is a rejig of our psyche. What do I mean? In 2015, look at a state like Anambra State, where you had up to 47 governorship aspirants. What are you jostling for? 47 people. The development now that we are having over 70 presidential candidates is a good one.
72.
72. It's a good one. Why am I saying that? Because we are now seeing young, resourceful, intelligent men coming out. Yes, they didn't win, but I tell you, it did well for our democracy. It's a step, it's a starting point for us. We have seen that these young men have the courage, dexterity, temerity, and say, I want to vie for this position. That's what democracy is about. So we should encourage them. Yes, they started now. 2023, by the grace of God, there will be an improvement. But someday, not too far in the near future, we'll have a young resource man. We're not too young to lead. We've not been trying to practice it. We just use word of mouth to say it. But these men, I give kudos to them. Showori, Galo, Durotoye, all of them. I give kudos to them for having that. You see, they dared to tread where others feared. And these are the pathfinders, the leaders. I give them kudos.
Can we say that's the turning point for our political process?
It is. It's a starting point. It's also a turning point.
Okay.
And we will encourage them. Yes, they didn't get so much votes this time, but they started. And we should continue in that line. Someday, the near future, we will get it right.
I think Fred wants to answer that quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
In as much as he has just said, it's a big plus for our system going forward. I fear too that in having such an unwieldy system going forward, we still lend opportunities for rigging. Except, of course, we adopt an electronic technology system that can, transmit results immediately after the polls. For the simple reason that in collating all of those results, then the system is dragged far beyond the closing time of the elections. And that also gives opportunities for rigging and manipulation, which we are trying to do away with. Like the barrister has said, we have mispracticed the American system greatly. The American system itself may not be perfect. We have an opportunity to make ours more perfect than theirs. America, at the inception of their own democracy, decided to introduce the separation of powers, which was a philosophy by a French political philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, which is different, or which was different from the parliamentary system that was very already established. And many societies have come to embrace that separation of powers and to strengthen separation of powers in their systems, even in parliamentary systems. So here, we're talking about post-electoral manipulations. The executive ought not to have had the opportunity of tampering with the judiciary like it did. Okay? So now that they are heading to court, so we are now saying, okay, this was perhaps the reason why the executive tampered with the court, so that the court becomes a friendly court when the oppositions challenge our manipulations or our conduct of the exercise.
They could have done it now.
Okay? So, and like he has said, we are mispracticing the American system. You ought not, the executive ought not to have, the president ought not to have appointed a replacement without going through the process without going through the process of confirmation with the
NGC.
from not just NGC, from the Senate, from the Parliament. So he needed to have done that. See, the transparency and equity of justice and governmental operations should not only be done, but be seen as being done.
Okay, we're going to talk about that a little more, at least before we're done with this discussion. The PDP candidates in the just concluded election has said he's heading to court to challenge what he believes were irregularities that marred that election. But just yesterday, but today is in the news, Olisa Agbakoba, a very respected senior advocate of Nigeria, is saying in his candid opinion he would advise he doesn't go to court. In lieu of that, he should leverage on the so-called third forces scattered across this country right now, take advantage of that, and then also keep in mind the fact that he needs to leave a legacy. What do you make of that position as a lawyer?
Two things. Olisa Agbakoba is a very respected senior colleague. I have a lot of respect for him, but with all due respect, it is his opinion.
Of course, he made that clear. He makes that much clear.
It is his opinion. And presidential candidate of PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has a full right to accept or disregard that opinion. Now, I think if I were Atiku Abubakar, I would disregard it without any regrets, and I will tell you why. If I'm involved in the process, you can also listen to Atiku Abubakar's speech, you know, press conference which he did, was it a day or 2 days ago, and he has said that, look, he feels, he's convinced that the will of Nigerians have been, you know, subjugated by, they are not letting people who have exercised their franchise to reflect the true results of that franchise. And if I, as a candidate in an election, feel that my mandate has been subjugated somehow or the other, or has been, stolen one way or the other, I will seek all known legal avenues to get it back. For all intents and purposes, what Olisa Agbakoba has said, very respected, like I said before, is his opinion on the way forward for Atiku Abubakar. The only legal means for fighting or regaining your mandate for election process like this is the court of law. And just like my respected brother has also said here, that some actions taken by the present government, it seems to dampen the faith and the belief in the system by the people and in their own in genuine intentions. Now, for whatever reason, you are removing the former CJN. For whatever reason, I think there's one fundamental thing we should look at. The timing was totally wrong and bad. The timing was bad because if you are going to remove that CJN, as at the time you removed him, what is wrong with now that they have won, and they do it now? If they had done it now, nobody would have raised as much eyebrows. But doing it just before the election, some of this timing, I mean, it's. I wonder whether they have advisors.
They kick up a lot of questions. But we're time limited. 30 seconds, Fred. Let's tie it up.
I would say that that article in going to court, let's not be parochial about the reason why it's going to court. I can say right here, like most Nigerians also would say, agree, that the outcome is known. That the Supreme Court is not going to find the process in the conduct of the election in its favor.
We can't say that here because we obviously, we can't say that.
It's my personal opinion, sir.
We are not.
Excuse me, sir.
No, we can't force us opinions when it has to do with a legal process. Yes, especially on that level where it has to do with the Supreme Court.
It is my personal opinion, and it's the opinion of a great many Nigerians.
Even though we're not spoken with that number of Nigerians.
Yes, a great many Nigerians. Because that has been the antecedent. I am speaking because of the antecedent, the precedent, that the incumbent always prevails on the judiciary.
So in summary, what's the point, sir? In summary, what's the point?
Yes. So in summary, in going to court, you and I stand to benefit because a lot of the reasons why the system didn't work properly will be made known, will be revealed, and will become a reference point for whatever amendments will be taken that will be done by the Parliament later in the exercise to amend the electoral act. So it's going to be a learning opportunity for us.
Let's see how much we can learn from that opportunity going forward. The PDP candidate at the just concluded presidential election, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who of course is former vice president, has also said he's going to court. So let's see what happens from this point on. I would love to thank especially my two distinguished guests on the program this morning. David Maduku, legal practitioner, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And next to him is Fred Uigwe, he's a politician and economist. Thank you also for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. It's a good thing to have conversation like this, especially in light of the 2019 general election, the first part of which was held last week, Saturday. But while we are at it, many people are also taking time to compare and contrast the 2015 and 2019 general elections, and opinions are flying everywhere, particularly on the social media. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has said that he would not congratulate President Muhammadu Buhari, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, because he says, according to a statement he released yesterday, the election of last Saturday was essentially marred by irregularities. And on that basis, the man has said he's heading to court to challenge the fact that INEC had declared President Muhammadu Buhari the winner of the election. Now, while we're waiting to see what happens going forward, I'm sure, unless something drastic happens in between, we are all going to wake up tomorrow morning to realize that Muhammadu Buhari is president-elect for a 4-year term that begins on 29th of May 2019. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe. That's our program for today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.